Hi, Eric Smith. Welcome back to the Julie Rowe Show.
Hey, here we are.
We just ended the last podcast, starting a new one.
Still in the
Decided
same
not to
same
take a break.
clothes, right?
Right.
You're still
Same day.
sweating and seething at the mouth a little bit from the last one, so.
Well, I hear that people like good reality TV, so I'm going to get a little more animated. Actually, it's not planned. It just happens to me when I get excited, and then the weirdness comes out. I don't know. Maybe we'll increase our audience on the other side of the veil. They'll tune in. They'll be like, "Oh my gosh, she's going crazy over there." Whatever it takes, Eric. Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So, November 10th, 2019.
December.
December.
Right.
See, I don't even know where I am. December.
Okay.
December 10th, 2019. Thank you for correcting me.
Sure.
Getting close to the end of the year. 2020 is coming. And just had a good session there with Multiple Probations 3. Now we're starting Multiple Probations 4. Let's start with some family stuff. We talked briefly in the last podcast about how we often are born into the same families or similar family lines, maybe not the exact same siblings or exact same parents or aunts and uncles or whatever, but often those roles will be interchanged, sometimes the exact same roles. In my current situation, my parents that I have right now have never been my parents before. But in some of my other probations, I have met some of my moms. Like one of the ladies that I work with has been my mom 5 times. And not just on this world, but another creation. And so I see those patterns. You can have spouses married to each other more than once. That makes sense if you have a heart connection premortally, that you would want to come back and be married to them again. And so this always freaks people out because they're like, well, then who's my eternal companion? I say to you, you can be sealed to more than one. And so don't freak out. And if I've had this theme come up with my clients lately when they've learned about multiple probations and multiple spouses and being sealed to more than one spouse. And there's this attempt the adversary is making in marriages to make both men and women, and it's come up more with women, but that's just because I think I have more women that are talking to me about it. They're not happy in their current situations. They're struggling. And so they want to know because they feel like there's somebody else out there. They can feel them on the other side of the veil. They don't know where they are, but they feel this longing, or they feel this missing, this homesickness, or it's like they knew they've been loved by somebody else or somebody else or something different. And the adversary is using that against them to make them think, well, you don't have to be with the guy you're with now. The reality is nobody has to be with anybody anytime in the eternities. That's not how it works. And the other reality is you chose the spouse you have now for a reason. Love them. Give them everything you have. Keep your eyes on them. Keep your heart on them. And just know that there is more. And use that to build hope in your future and not to cut off the relationship you have now. Because that comes from the adversary. There are cases where we have some individuals that are choosing darkness here in this probation, married to somebody who is choosing light. In that case, if they continue down a path of darkness and you continue down a path of light, your ways will part and you won't be together forever, because no one's going to be stuck, and light cannot go with dark. And a person who does not choose to advance in their powers and priesthoods and lights will never enter into the celestial kingdom. And so don't get depressed about that. Just know, like, if somebody has mistreated you, if you're in an abusive relationship, you're not going to be abused for eternity unless you choose to follow them into dark realms. And then, the pattern could continue. You can go into dark realms and continue to be abused, or you can choose to go into light realms and let them do their dark things. And then someone is provided for you. Even if you've never been married to somebody before, there is always somebody that is available. This is a big, 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 big universe. So use it to propel you forward and to have hope, and work on the relationships you have now with your spouses, with your children, with your parents. There's the reason you were born in the family you're in, and you chose it.
That's well said. When I first started learning about this doctrine, Julie, I had this weird thought, like, okay, I believe the doctrine's true. I've had many lives. That's fine. But they couldn't have all been on this earth. For whatever reason, I didn't think it was possible that I could be on the same earth more than twice. And I had this thought, like, because otherwise there's this potential of me being my own ancestor, and that's weird. Well, it turns out that the adversary is very crafty, because it is actually very much central to the purpose of multiple probations to come in the same family. Because, and here's a thought that long ago, when, maybe in the early first 1,000 years or something, some of us lived and we were in certain families, and we put some things into motion for our families that may have been negative. And so we talked a little bit about karma, or the negative energy that follows us. Well, what does heaven do? Father gives us another chance to come down in the very same family line to correct some of the things that we ourselves may have put in motion, or other family members, and it helps us clear some of those things in our family line. So there are always patterns in families, in the families that we're put in, right?
Right. That's great. And thank you, Eric. And I've had people ask, well, I had a memory of so-and-so, and if I was that person as an early pioneer and I was already sealed, do I have to get sealed again? Why have I already had it? Yes, you do. It's each body or robe, again, goes into priesthood powers, goes into ascension, goes into higher doctrines I can't get into. But there is a reason we seal going directly back and wide in a family line. And when you look at energy work, the pattern is the same as what you would do when you do temple work. They go hand in hand. We are the branches of the tree. You have the trunk of the tree, which is the life force of the earth and of the family on this in this lineage. And looking at the allegory of, say, the olive tree, so then you have the branches going wide with all the little seeds that are come up from each of those branches to make more branches. And so we are sealing, and connecting like a huge tapestry. And everything's interwoven to the finest little threads. And we want to clean that thread. We want to clean the line. We want to clean the cords. We want to make them healthy, help everybody raise the vibration so that more branches can grow from healthy seeds, from healthy branches, and that we have a healthy tree. And so, yes, we want to do temple work. And I know I've had other probations where I've had temple work done several times, but Julie Rowe still needed to have her temple work done. I still needed these endowments to be sealed to my husband in this probation. Now, I know my husband I have now, I've been sealed to him before. In our probation, we didn't have it done because the temple work wasn't available then. The restoration hadn't happened. But since then, other people have done our temple work because they do temple work for that family line. And I have all three of my kids have been my children before. And so there's a reason that we chose to be together. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's because we just love each other so much we wanted to be together. Mm-hmm. But it's much deeper than that. It's what characteristics can I develop? What can they help me develop, and what can I help them develop to become more Christ-like, to ascend, to become like Father and Mother, to become a God and Goddess? What things needed to be chiseled to make me a good diamond? Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of rough edges. And so who could I marry that would help teach me this going into these family lines? What would be a good situation to help me create who I want to become? Mm-hmm. And so I also see this pattern. I've had a lot of clients who have been told by the Spirit that they have condescended to help. Maybe they're like a 4.3 light, second or third creation, and they come and they're married to a 3 light first creation, and the Spirit's told them that. And there's this pride energy that enters in, and Lucifer whispers in the ear and says, you're only here because you condescended to help him because he has a lot of work he needs to do. That's a lie, and it's a false belief. If you've been told that, you're listening to a false spirit. Your husband or your wife, who is a younger spirit, is just as much of a help to you, if not more, than you are to them.
Yep.
Because you cannot become a god or goddess unless you learn how to love unconditionally, teach, be patient, help, and get nothing out of the deal other than that. And you're still getting a lot more out of the deal, because by being married to them, they chose a hard mission. Now, this is the thing. I see younger spirits that are married to these older spirits. By the nature of having a more complex energy system, because of being an older spirit, there comes with it in of itself, I guess you could say, extra demons and unclean spirits that are assigned to you. And those who are assigned or who chose to marry those individuals are on a fast track. They are choosing. These are some of the Lord's brightest, noblest spirits. And they chose a difficult mission, being married to you as an older spirit. And I can't go into why that is, but I can just tell you that I'm so tired of hearing from people, oh, I just came. I had a session with somebody the other day, and they said, I came as proxy and I'm here just for everybody else. That's a lie. It's a lie. None of us come as proxy. We come for a purpose, and it's a much higher purpose than what people are being given to understand. And that, I don't judge that person for saying that, because I understand why they're saying it, but I had to basically say to that person, that's not correct. See, you have an incomplete doctrine being given to you by whoever's telling you that. You're not getting the full doctrine. You're not getting the full picture. You're not getting the full understanding. And none of us in mortality, as celestial beings, including myself, because I still am veiled, none of us have the full picture. We're all pieces on a chessboard or a thread in a tapestry, and none of us can see everything going around, because we're in a mortal state. Even those who have condescended, even those who are archangels, and we have a lot of archangels that are part of the noble and great ones, they are veiled too. They don't even know who they are. One of the surest signs I can see when somebody's listening to the adversary versus the Lord about their probations and who they are is whether there's an element of pride and arrogance related to their identity. When people want to be someone important in the scriptures, or they want to be validated in who they are because they're important and they have a great mission to do. Now, that's not to say that we don't have important missions. You guys know I've been very bold and very direct about my mission, and I've been accused of being arrogant and prideful. And quite honestly, I have energy to clear there. I'm not gonna deny that. But there's this pattern I see, and Eric and I've talked about it, right? Where it's almost like a bragging, like, oh, I was so and so, right? If there's that energy, my caution to you is maybe you need to check your source and see if that's even really who you are, because Satan loves to come and tell people that there's somebody they're not, that some renowned historical figure that's done great things, because everybody wants to feel like they do great things on the planet. And then he goes for the ego so he can have an opening, so he can control you, so he can tell you other false information. Or he'll tell you you were somebody who really was in the scriptures, and then he'll lie about what happened or who you were or why you did it. Or he'll tell you you were someone who actually maybe you were someone who knew that person and you betrayed that person, but he wants you to think you were that person.
Right.
There's all kinds of techniques he uses.
Absolutely.
So you might hear the word of a name of somebody, and then you let your own thoughts go and you think, well, I heard that name, that must be me.
Right.
So tell me how I've had like six or seven people tell me they think they're Mary Magdalene, and tell me how I've had 4 people tell me that the Lord told them that they're Mother Mary. And I've had at least 3 guys tell me that they think they're John, James, or Peter.
Right.
Joseph Smith, right? Peter, James, and John and Joseph are on the other side of the veil. Mother Mary's on the other side of the veil. And anyway, there's these patterns that I see. The more clients I talk to, the more people I talk to at events and do classes and things like that. So.
Julie, a minute ago you were talking about families. Can we go back to that for a minute? We've had a number of people talk about email about babies and infants who die young. Is there anything that you could say about that?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my son and my daughter, actually. Well, I've lost several sons and daughters in mortality on different creations. You're going to get me emotional. I have memory of several of them I just wanted to tell them that I love them and I miss them. My first child I lost to a miscarriage. It was a boy, and he often serves as guardian for me and shows up to our sessions. He's participating in this session today, and I just want to tell him that I love him. Also, my youngest is a daughter. I lost her in this probation. I want to tell her I love her. I miss them very much. I know that they have important work on the other side of the veil. I believe that the time is coming for them shortly, that they will be given an opportunity to have a body again. They received what they needed to in that short span of time while they were in womb. And then for their learning and also for mine and others, their plan was for them to just, uh, go to the other side and never actually be born um, alive. That goes for stillborns as well. Aborted children, it's often the case. The Lord knows all, so sometimes the Lord will tell them more of their plan, let them know, hey, uh, we can plan for you to be born in this family, but you're going to end up aborted, and we have a backup plan for that, or the real plan of what we're going to do for an opportunity for people to have their agency. Often it's not all disclosed to them because of agency. We let the plan roll forward, the energy to go naturally. So in cases of abortion, most often I see that child still being born in the same family line or a similar one, maybe a generation over, um, and it can be born to a sister. If that spirit so chooses to go back to the same mother or father, that can happen. Although, quite honestly, once a spirit experiences that kind of trauma, because it is traumatic to them, and they do have trapped emotions, other things. Once they do that, um, a lot of the time they don't want to go to the same mother because they've got rejection energy and some anger and other things they're trying to resolve. So they will just choose to go either to another family line or to someone else where they feel like they're actually wanted. But I have had clients in cases where they had abortions, either forced abortions when they were younger, or they chose abortion when they were young, before they had the gospel or before they had a testimony of Christ or understood. And then, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years later, they wanted to have children, and that same spirit agreed to come back. So it does happen. There are places on the other side of the veil where young spirits are raised and taken in, and they're beautiful places. And so um, I also see, actually, in case of abortion, due to the trauma of the energy, sometimes the dark side gets a hold of some of those spirits, and we do um, have to do rescue missions in some of the areas in the dark realms. And so that's something that breaks my heart. I want those spirits who are listening to me to know that I see you and that we do everything in our power to rescue you, those of you who are being held captive at this time, no matter what age you are. I have been in those dark realms. I have memory of it. I have been held captive more times than I can tell you, and it is traumatic, and we are trying to do our best. I guess you could say here on Earth we have human trafficking, and over there there's soul trafficking, and so we do the best we can. In cases of miscarriage, again, the child has an opportunity to come back for another probation. All of these spirits have opportunities for other probations, just like anyone else. For those of you who have lost children, either to abortion or to miscarriage and stillborn, my heart goes out to you. It is something that many women and men have suffered while in mortality, and if you are struggling with grief or other emotions, I want you to know that I hear you and that I can identify. Uh, Sometimes it's just nice to know somebody else can feel your pain. Although none of us knows exactly what it's like to be in someone else's shoes, but I know that the Savior does, and that Father and Mother do, and that we have many members of Elohim who have been through what you're going through, and quite honestly, much worse. And that is why they're able to extend the hand of mercy to you in any capacity, and to provide the healing and to provide their life force so that you can heal from whatever trauma, whatever you've gone through. My heart goes out to those right now who are listening, who have lost a child at any age. For those that have a question, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints teaches that children under the age of 8 are celestial. This is true. The robe that they get, or their body that they get until they're 8, if they're not baptized, they do ascend into a celestial realm, and they don't have to go through baptism and have the initiatory and the endowment at that place. They can be sealed to their parents still. If they're born in the covenant, that's taken care of. And yet they can still come back to earth, and most of them do choose to come back to earth to get a new robe, a new body, so they can ascend even further into the celestial realms. So say you have a young spirit who's never been on the earth before, they might choose, maybe, for all you know, maybe they chose a fast track, and so maybe they chose to come to earth for 6 years, ascend to the heavens, and then come back and live a life until, they're 30, and then come back and live a life until they're 80. There's lots of reasons. And same with those that have Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis, any kind of illness, cancer that causes them to suffer greatly, people with autism, Asperger's. There's all kinds of reasons why those individuals have chosen to have those ailments and those health issues. Sometimes it's to clear energy in the family lines, often, and also to help them learn or to ascend. The greater the trials one has in life related to things like that, gives them an opportunity at a different level to purify their heart and to clear their energy to get to a higher place. Anyway,
very good.
I don't
comments.
know if you wanted that long. That was a long answer.
Thanks, Julie. And just to add a couple things there, I know of some past estates where my children were also my children there, lost their mother, and then in another estate lost their father at young ages. And it's almost like heaven wanted them to experience the loss of both. And it's just another pattern. Another thing that I was thinking of while you were talking was, we often hear, and I don't know the quote exactly, about for those who lose their children in this life, they will, if they're faithful, they'll be able to raise that child in the millennium. I think I've always seen, in the past, I've just seen that same person coming down in the same robe, the same body, and raising it there. But I'm starting to see that the more likely scenario is you actually birth that spirit again in a new tabernacle, a new body, a new robe.
Yes.
And raise it that way.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. That's a doctrine that had not been completely taught. I appreciate that. So I'm going to, I'll out myself again. I have, as part of my mission, volunteered to experience basically really anything anyone in mortality will go through. I have memory of being on the Mayflower and being terribly sick and dying on the Mayflower at the age of 5. And it's been explained to me that I agreed to do that for lots of reasons I'm not going to go into. And then I ascended again so that I could come back shortly thereafter to help in Jamestown. On that probation, I only lived to the age of about 20. And I had a child that was taken from me and murdered. And I had another child that I died at an early age and left him without a mother. And I have been blessed to be able to have both of those children again with new robes in a new probation. I have another memory of being at Martin's Cove, starving and frozen and dying at Martin's Cove at the age of 6. And I'm clearing energy right now for my parents who lost their child. And again, I needed to ascend so that I could come back again. Told you it's real stuff.
Yeah, it's real.
It is often hard for the person who dies. They grieve too. There's emotion that can be trapped. It can be released, and you guys are seeing it in action.
Yeah. Julie, if you want a minute, I can shift gears.
Please.
And let you. Okay. Yes. I wanted to talk about numbers. You've heard Julie use numbers, and the scriptures themselves refer to us in our first estate. And We don't need to get too caught up in numbers, but let me just explain how that works real quickly according to understanding. There are two types of numbers we might use. One is concerning your probations, which is the number of lives you've had, and the second is your estate, which is different. Your estate has more to do with your mission, as I understand it. So let me explain probations really quick. You've heard Julie refer to a decimal system, like 4.3 or whatever. The way this works, and this goes back to a quote I quoted before by Shakespeare: for 3 he strays, for 3 he plays, for 3 he stays, or something. We don't need to hold fast to any of those. It's just a concept that it takes time to become firm in who you are and establish your gifts. So my understanding is, in your second estate, which is your first life on this earth, in your third estate, your third probation, and then you become a 4, we call it a 4.1. So you have 2, 3, and a 4.1. Those are your first 3 on the earth. The next 3 is your 4.2, 4.3, and then you go to 5.1, and then 5.2, 5.3. At that point, you've had 9 lives, and then you can advance at that point. So that's seems to be the typical process for those who choose to follow the program of multiple probations and that path of ascension. That's typically what you would go through. Estates is a different thing. They correlate, but not exactly. And Julie, I want to turn this to you, but we have second estates, third estates, fourth estates, and people are picking up on the idea that each of those have sort of different missions or purposes in life.
Right. I think we can go into some more of that on maybe another podcast or something as far as the missions. I can tell you that there are not that many fifth estates, even fewer sixth estates. For every light that we have on the planet, there is someone that is contracted with the dark. So if you take the Justin Trudeau's, the Hillary Clintons, the Putins, these guys that are powerhouses on the dark side, these are multi-creation beings who are in higher estates. They've been placed in positions of power by the dark side for the chess game. It's very much war, and we have our lights as well. We've got our Bednars, our Hollands, right, our Nelsons, and our Enochs, and our 3 Nephites,
right?
Who in our case, the hidden bloodline, we do the opposite of what the dark side does. We stay hidden. They cloak and put themselves in the public light to be cool to the world. And we hide and use invisibility shields, and it's awesome. And one day we will reveal who we are, or it will be revealed, and we'll do a checkmate.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I like that. And I think it's worth noting, we've done some tests and have found that most people on the earth are in their first probation, which is their second estate.
Yeah. First estate is premortal spirit body.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But meaning first time on the earth, and
and most people on the earth, this is their first time, maybe their second time.
Yeah, some are on their second. A very small handful are in their third, fourth, fifth, and sixth estates, and so forth. But anyway.
So let's look at the hope that comes from a greater tomorrow and going through the tribulations. 2/3 of the planet goes to the other side of the veil. That means the majority of the earth being in their first or second estate, or for probation, get to graduate from mortality, and they get to go back to the heavens, and then they get to learn some more, and then they get to try it again to advance further. So I try now to really look, if they choose to, I try really hard to look at the travesty that's going to happen to the planet, or is happening on the earth right now, and all the awful stuff the dark side's going to do, and how we're going to flip that on them and say, okay, well, if you're going to kill 2/3 of the planet, we're going to bring them into the heavenly realms. We're going to teach them the gospel some more, and then they're going to just advance in the light. So you do what you're going to do, and we're going to do what we're going to do, and we'll see at the end of the day who wins this war. I've seen the end, you guys. I've seen the end. The light side wins.
All right.
You're gonna let that sit there. We win. We have a lot to do between now and then. I welcome those of you who are ready to go into the light to do so now. If you're struggling to forgive someone, yourself or someone else, I encourage you to work on that. I feel it's a good time to let everyone know that I have completely forgiven all of my betrayers who have ever betrayed me in any level, layer, realm, and dimension. This earth, this probation, this body, or any other body. I hold no ill will, including those of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who have so terribly betrayed me and falsely accused me. I extend my love to each and every one of them, those that have infiltrated everything into the highest quorums of the church, the 70s, and my stake presidency and high council. I want them to know that I love them. I hope they watch this podcast. And I hope that if they don't remember anything else, they have my witness of my testimony of our Savior Jesus Christ. And I extend my gratitude to them for helping to propel me forward in my plan.
Okay.
I feel good.
Okay, good. We have a couple other things we didn't even mention. I feel like we're out of time. I think we need to do another one.
Next podcast. Do you want to do a few teasers and tell them what it might be about, or should we wait?
I think some teasers are good. The Holy Ghost is a very key part of understanding probations and how he gets his chance at having a body. We need to talk about that. A little bit more on condescension. A little bit more on family dynamics and sorry, I need to switch over here. Why we're in the families we're in, and
right,
and a little bit more on spiritual gifts, why we have the gifts we have, and how those play into our missions, which could also relate to that estate number we talked about.
Cool.
There's some teasers and probably some more. I feel like there's been a number of questions that have come from podcast listeners that we could address as well. So.
Okay, that sounds great, Eric. Let's do that then.
Yep.
So here's what we have of the lineup. I leave Monday, December 16th to take my son, Spencer, to the MTC with my husband. He goes into the MTC on December 18th, going to the Philippines. So awesome. I'm preparing for that this last week. Eric and I are also going to do another podcast on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. We have, that's for our new YouTube channel that we're starting. We do not have a date determined for when that will come out, but we've got several shorter podcasts. And I don't know, we might not announce that till the spring. We really don't know when. And let's see what else. Oh, we have the books. I forgot to tell you guys that we will have Eric's book, the podcast book, my first 4 books, including the biography, and all of that at the latent cost for sale at a discounted rate if you want to have a signed copy there from either Eric or I. And then we also, a few years ago did some GTRF gear with our logo. I've never promoted it. I may, if there's an interest, put that on my blog or something. I've talked about that. That may be coming. I'm going to have that available. The proceeds go to GTRF, and proceeds for the books go to GTRF as well. And something else I'm looking at doing is some other GTRF gear, some less expensive t-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. All of it is for the Greater Tomorrow Relief Fund so that we can prepare for the days that are coming and to help those who are in need. We're doing more and more on both sides of the veil with the human trafficking issue. And so a lot of these safe houses are doubling up, not just as emergency disaster, but human trafficking safe houses that I see that we're going to need coming up real quick. That's it.
Very
Eric,
good.
thank you.
All right. Thank you too, Julie. It's been nice.
Thanks. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.